So just yesterday, I was hitting tricep extensions, and this guy who I've been talking to, like this friend of mine, he walks by and he's pretty new to the gym and stuff. And he asked me, oh, like, what do you got and stuff? And I tell him that I have a full day for triceps. And he almost just kind of looks at me in shock, and he's like, like, why would you have triceps as one full day and stuff? And I explained to him, the importance of putting arms as a whole day and shit. And he kind of like understands it. And after a while, he kind of walks past again, and I'm, doing skull crushers, like dumbbell skull crushers, and it was like the last workout of mine. And I ask him for a little spot, just like a little help and stuff. And he's almost surprised by the intensity of what I'm doing here. Like, you have a full day for triceps, and you're hitting it with such extreme intensity. You're, doing drop sets, you're increasing the weight casually, you're doing a lot of reps. And he was very shocked. He didn't really understand the idea of doing more. It's almost like he didn't even think about it. So you see, in our world, unfortunately that is, in the gym community, we have a lot of people who aren't the best at doing arms. They just don't seem to... They seem to be slackers at doing arms. I don't know what kind of opened up this whole mantra. It's like arms are supposed to be, one of the more important muscles that you would focus on, because nobody wants to have a good torso with a good chest, with a good back and stuff, with good shoulders, and end up having, some skinny arms. And yet, people just seem to not really care. They seem to just put arms, just kind of mixed in with your chest. So you do like chest and biceps or something. You do like back and biceps, or maybe like chest and triceps. And the whole idea of this, people just don't seem to care. And yet arms are, one of the most difficult things that you could do. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you've got people like Rich Piana, who are emphasizing arms, who did 8-hour arm workouts. And I think it's almost kind of crazy to think about, like back then the gym community did 8-hour arm workouts. And now you've got people who just do chest and triceps all casually, and like they're just kind of casually throwing in triceps like it doesn't even matter. And if you've been in the gym for a while, you'd know that arms are very difficult to grow out. Unlike something like your chest or like your back or like, anything, it's like they are very difficult to grow. And it's not for anything, it's because it needs a lot of focus and intensity. And we use arms on such a daily basis. It's like training legs, really. It's just you're training another type of legs, which is your arms. And so people tend to just slack off, and it's probably because of the pain, really, when you really think about it. It's probably because they just want to avoid the pain of, having sore arms and not really moving properly, not being able to, like lift your phone. And it's quite interesting. So before we move on with today's video, I kind of just want to tell you about the Thrive Protocol. So basically, the Thrive Protocol is the only thing I sell, and it's truly the ultimate vehicle to get you to your dream physique. So basically, when I was creating the Thrive Protocol, I thought about the different ways, or the different pain points, different like pains that you might go through as you're on the journey of building your gym physique, whatever that may be. And I've kind of just thought about all those different pains, from like, counting your calories to, having to sleep 8 hours and stuff, and really trying to just nail in your sleep, like to the other side of training and how you're supposed to train and stuff. I've just thought about all those different pains, and I've thought, how can I take away as much of the effort that goes into building your dream physique and basically make building your dream physique as easy as it could be on your end? And that's exactly what the Thrive Protocol is. It's basically build your dream physique made easy. And so there's a whole bunch that goes into this. Like, I made a whole video talking about it. I won't really like yap too much here. I'll just kind of leave that video for you to check out if you're interested in building your physique. You can basically just check it out. I'll leave it as the first link description. Just check it out right now, and you can come back to this video. So right off, I think we all know this, but to get any muscle to actually get bigger, to get any stimulus or any growth on a certain muscle, you need to actually focus on it. And it's, like I was just kind of yapping about this in the start of this video. But people tend to throw like the arm muscles, or separate the arm muscles and just kind of throw them around. So it's like you've got like the type of people who just go on a chest, triceps, shoulders, biceps, like back legs, let's say, something like that. And they've separated the arm muscles into 3 different days basically making their arm days useless, or, arm growth useless. Now you might say, oh, but they might get some growth and stuff. But now let's see where their energy actually goes. Now you've got somebody who's training chest and triceps, and they're starting with their chest, and they're burning out their triceps using, to train chest. And so what's really happening here is they're wasting all their energy for chest, and they're just kind of throwing triceps in like it doesn't even matter. And so what muscle is going to be getting more growth here? Well, it's probably going to be the chest and not actually the triceps. And so this is just kind of a common example that I like to use. But people just tend to do that. And so one of the main key things I like to just suggest when anyone wants to focus on growing bigger arms is just having a separate arm day. That is like the least that you could do. And if you've heard, which you of course did, I even have a whole day just for one separate muscle on the arm. So yesterday I had a whole fucking tricep day. Other days I'd have a whole day just for biceps. Now, of course, I still have arm days that are arm specific, but I do also tend to train the arm muscles, or the certain muscle groups that go into your arm, which are really only 3, forearms, and biceps and triceps. I usually tend to also put these on separate days. So I'd have a whole day just for abs, forearms, and for usually neck and stuff. I'd have other days where I'd throw in just pure biceps and maybe some forearms. And it's mainly the reason I do this is just because you need to have more focus on the muscle. Because the more you focus on anything, you will be able to basically stimulate it or grow it or get any sort of, results that you seek. And so when we're kind of talking about growing arms, well, you just got to focus on it more. Do more arms. And now, if I'm going to get into training, that's going to be a whole separate thing, but really just train with intensity. Don't actually just do a mediocre arm workout where it's, 2 sets of fucking tricep extensions, and then you've got 2 sets of cross, and then you've got 1 set of fucking dumbbell skull crushers, and then you just kind of go home. And all those sets are, mediocre 12 rep, barely any effort type of sets. Because that won't stimulate much. As opposed to you training with full intensity, doing, 5+ sets per exercise, doing 3+ or 4+ exercises, actually training with intensity. And I'm talking that stuff per muscle group. Now, you could say that's too much. In my eyes, if you want anything to grow, you're not supposed to say too much because, things do take a lot of fucking effort. But that's still a whole separate fucking thing that I guess people have to discover. And so to really recap this, have arms as a separate day, preferably, and if you really want to max in out, have a full day just for triceps and forearms. Or a separate whole day for just biceps and forearms, basically. If you don't want to do that and you want to actually keep them with back, or you want to keep triceps with chest, you would start with the arm muscles, because the arm muscles are harder to grow, and so you would basically waste all your energy on the arm muscles, and then you would focus on the other muscle that you want to train. And now, preferably, I would not ever suggest that you would do that, because that is very, you're wasting your energy on 2 muscles, and you're probably not going to have enough energy to be able to stimulate both. Or at least it won't be as efficient as if you just put 1 muscle per day and you actually focused on it. That's the best way to kind of go about things. And so that's really why I kind of just, I always prefer that you would do arms as a separate day. And if you could really throw and dial in everything, make each muscle group on your arm basically a whole day. And you would just focus on that. And now the thing goes, basically you would do 4+ exercises. So choose any 4 exercises or more per muscle group. So we're talking, let's say biceps. You would do, classic bicep, dumbbell bicep curls. You would do hammer curls, you would do preacher curls, and you would do barbell curls. Pretty straightforward. That's 4 exercises. Now for the sets, you would basically do 4 to 6 sets per exercise. So for all the exercises we mentioned, you would basically do 4 to 6 sets, depending on really how usually the stimulus that goes with certain exercises would be very good. So let's say you're starting with your first exercise and it's going to be bicep curl, dumbbell bicep curls. Basically what you would do is you would go for 6 sets, and you would usually kind of burn out with the first exercise. So that's usually kind of how the first exercise would go. Now let's say that you would do After that, hammer curls. And now you would do something like 4 sets because you've burned out pretty well with the first exercise. Now after that, you would go to something like barbell curls, let's say, and you would do something like 6 sets again because you want to burn out more and you've rested with the hammer curls, technically speaking. And so you would do something like 6 sets, and then for the preacher curls, you would do something like 4 sets. And that's really all there is to it. And to be honest, if you ever feel like the stimulus is just there, and you feel like one set is not really that necessary, and be careful with this because I'm saying necessary. I'm not saying, that it just, I don't know, like it might hurt and stuff. I'm saying if it doesn't feel like it's necessary and it won't add anything and it'll probably only waste your energy, then don't add it in. And preferably you would never do that, and you would always add in all your sets, and you would always do all your sets. Because the more you put in, the more you get out. That's really just how it works. Now, for each one of those 4 to 6 sets that you will do per exercise, you will need to basically take all those sets to pure failure. And when I say failure, I'm not talking till you get that lactic acid feeling, because you would preferably not even want to reach that point. I'm talking failure where you can't lift the weight. And now, the thing is, you need to choose the weight that you use for your reps with very high accuracy. So, basically, if I can do, let's say, 10 good reps with the 20 kgs, let's say bicep curls. Let's say I can do 10 good reps with the 20s. Well, then I would do that as opposed to going for 10s, which I can do something like 25, but my forearms might catch some lactic acid and I'd end up throwing the weight and not really reaching failure. Basically, what I'm really trying to say is you want your muscle to reach failure before you get that lactic acid feeling, before you start to really get that burn. Now, you could get the burn and be very close to reaching failure, and you would just continue on and push through the burn, but you would always prefer to get your muscle to failure before you get that burn. That's basically what I'm really trying to talk about here. And so, take all your sets to failure and choose the weight for the rep range that you're going for very wisely, because the weight, it makes everything. It makes or breaks everything. If you're choosing the wrong weight and you're ending up, just basically getting some lactic acid feeling and not really getting failure, well then, that's probably something that's going to limit you. Now, the last thing, and it's really just kind of like a maximizer. I don't really like to talk about progressive overload, but the thing is, it does actually help. I'm not going to lie to you here. I in the first while of going to the gym, I didn't really do progressive overload, and I got very good results. But the thing is, if you just want an extra push, if you really want to just get as much gains as possible, you would not go wrong by doing progressive overload. So basically, if you don't know what progressive overload is, you would basically start with something you would basically progressively overload, add in weight per set. So basically, let's say that you're doing 4 sets of preacher curls. And you start the first very low. You could do, let's say your max is something like 30 kgs, right? So you would basically go and start with 10s. And then you would go 15s, 20s, 25s. And you wouldn't really reach the max. You could do max, I'm talking max, 1 rep max. So 1 rep max for 30, which is pretty low, but, we're giving an example. And so basically that's kind of what I'm really talking about. Basically, you would progressively overload, add in weight per set, and that would actually help your muscle or challenge your muscle more, which will get you more gains. That's basically what progressive overload really is. And so you would add that in as your sets kind of go. And I wouldn't really do this for all my sets. I would choose one exercise and I would kind of do this with it. It preferably would be the first exercise. If it wasn't the first exercise, maybe the second. But that's really kind of how I would go about it. You could choose 2 or 3 exercises to do progressive overload, and then the rest you would just kind of do normally. When I'm talking normally, just stay on the same weight or maybe kind of, drop down. But, that's kind of the main thing here. Now, the other factors I'll just kind of run through very quick. So basically, you will always get more gains when you're bulking. So always try and be bulking. If you're trying to really get bigger arms, you should be bulking if you want to get any kind of muscle growth. Basically, if you're cutting, you're going to be limiting yourself from food. You're going to be losing muscle mass and losing fat. So, that's probably not the most optimal thing to actually, hope for, which is getting bigger arms. It's not very optimal to hope for your arms when you're cutting. So bulk, that's preferably like the best piece of advice I can give you here. If you want to get bigger arms, that is. The second thing is sleeping 8 hours. So always just kind of get 8+ hours of sleep. It really depends on each person. Some people would go for 7 hours of sleep and they'd be perfectly fine. Others would need 9 or even 10 hours of sleep. Basically, just sleep till you're full. Sleep till you can't sleep anymore. And then wake up. That's, like the perfect fucking thing that I could give you here. And then the last thing is basically protein after your workout. So basically what you would do is, as soon as you're done with your workout, you would just go out, get a protein shake. Like you probably have that like cafeteria thing in your gym, unless like you're in a private gym or something. Basically just get a protein with you after you're done with the workout and drink it as soon as possible. And that's really all there is to it. It just, it tends to help. And that's really all there is to it. And like you could kind of, as opposed to drinking a protein shake, you could basically just eat a very heavy meal that has a lot of protein, and that would just kind of cover your protein needs. And that's really all there is to it. And so if you commit to the work, you will be getting the results.